Good evening, everyone, and we are live. And welcome back to another Thoughtful Thursday. This is episode 2. Let me just bring up my banner. Yes, we are on episode 2, starting over life after loss. How I am rebuilding, and surely you can do it too. So today I just want to share with you my journey after loss and hope that me sharing my journey would give somebody else hope, give them that courage and guidance for those who are facing similar challenges, especially women navigating life after a significant loss or who are wanting to start over in life, whether in your mid 40s. So, yes, it's a bit late. I am in the Caribbean right now. The time here is 10:24. And yes, when I said I'm going to join you on Thursdays, I do mean it. I am not only showing up for me, I am showing up for my business because I am about showing up for myself, showing up for my business, showing up for my audience. If I've given you my word, I like to keep my word. So, as I said before, welcome back to another episode. It's episode 2, and today I'll be sharing my story, life after loss, how I am rebuilding, what may have worked for me, and I'm hoping that you'll be encouraged, you'll be empowered to um, start over because rebuilding your life, it requires a lot of work. It is tough. It's not an easy task, but it is very tough. But you've got to hang in there and take enjoy the journey, sit in the journey and enjoy. So let me just first start off. Life has a way of just throwing curveballs. Many a times you're at a crossroad in life, and it always happens when we least expect it. And as I said, for me, it was in 2015 when I lost my husband. So, because we had a good relationship, the grief did hit me and it hit me strong. It was overwhelming. I found myself numb and in a dark place. I have never been into a place where I felt so alone. I didn't know who to go to. I didn't know who to trust. It just seemed like a whirlwind. Yes, it was overwhelming. And I was in a country now all on my own. Yes. So I left the UK, I left the US and I married my husband. I moved to the UK and I had a cousin of mine. He was like a second cousin of mine. He lived maybe like 10 minutes walking away from me, and we developed a bond when I moved there, and we were always in touch. So he was my source of strength. um he was that my like almost that person to check in on me, and he still does that even though I'm on holiday here I'm traveling the world, and I'm here in the Caribbean. So those days were difficult. I was lost. I know different people, they experience different things through grief. For me, I had memory loss. I was just taking it one day at a time. I couldn't think clearly, but one of the things that kept me going was my faith in God. There were so many sleepless nights and not a lot of sleep, but one thing that I kept going was my faith and strength in God. And another thing that kept me strong was having a routine. I more or less told myself, you have to behave as if um, you're still doing my 9 to 5 work. I was able to get time off from work because of the amount of years I'd already put in. So I was able to get time off work. And I told myself, I am not going to stay in my bed. I was not going to go through depression, and I created a daily routine for myself. I went ahead life as if not that it didn't happen, but I still engaged myself throughout the day. I got up, had breakfast, went for a walk, came back. Um, I made a checklist of things that I had to do. And I had to say that is one of the things I would say saved me. So I have a bit of statistics here saying that studies show that within the first month of losing a spouse, 40% of individuals meet the criteria for major depression, and 24% continue to experience these symptoms after 2 months. Now, everyone is different, and these are just some statistics I found. And one of the things I found, like so my husband died in the May, and I traveled in October. I went to, I told you that the traveling journey began. I visited my brother in France, and one of the things I found really difficult was leaving the house and taking that my first flight as a widow. That was the most difficult thing I did. I remember just a quick story. I just remembered the um the the taxi coming for me, and I just couldn't get out the house. I felt as if like I was leaving him behind. And even though I got into the taxi and we drove away, I just remember the tears streaming down. I felt as if like I was leaving him. Even on the takeoff, the ascent of the plane, I just looked out of the window and I was just in tears. And I had reached a point where I cried no matter where I was. I just let it all out because I just felt holding it in, that is not really expressing my emotions. So that was more or less my rock bottom moment. But there was something within me, that resilience that made me push, develop a routine. And even though was leaving on a short little holiday to just breathe and relax and try to find myself again, yes, I found it difficult. And I just had to take it one day at a time in terms of planning. So amidst the darkness, I had to come to the realization that I had to change the past. I had the power within me, although I was searching and seeking, and I was wondering, when would this pain end? I knew I had it within me, and I had to tap into myself and tap in deeply to bring myself to realize I have to move on. And one of the strangest what thing that happened is, like, a month before my husband passed away, he was like, we were in the kitchen, and he was like, I don't expect you to stay single. He's like, I expect you to move on with your life and, you know, live life. He always used to say, life is for living. And he was like, if you're alive, just live, just live. He's like, he always said, when you die, you'll be sleeping forever. But life is for living, and life is for the living. And so many of his little nuggets that he always told me came back to me. And I said, oh, I felt that reassurance. And I was like, he would not want me to just be being depressed or being sad all the time. But I had to dig deep because I missed him. And I had to come to the realization he's not going to come back. So one of the things I did, I went ahead and I sought counseling. I did like a 6 week program, and then after that, I did another 6 week program. It was just a matter of me tapping into the resources that I had. And I am so glad I took that step to do counseling, and I was able to just speak my emotions, speak what I felt. And yeah, if in any counseling session, at the end of it, you realize you've answered the questions you had. You the wondering of the whys. Could have I done this better? What could have I done differently? The only thing I find, I never did blame myself and I never blamed God, because in the reality and the grand scheme of things, we aren't going to be here forever. We can't live forever. And for me, when I started getting that support, surrounding myself with whether my church community and other people who can understand my pain, and I could speak about the pain I was experiencing, not only the physical pain and the pain of the grief, but also the outward, should I say, don't want to say the aggression and the pressures that were put on me from his family, or if you want to call it my in-laws. um, I was able to speak out how I felt, and I was able to regain my voice and take a stand and set certain boundaries. And I was like, no, this is not going to happen. So I just, I started to begin to see that glimmer of hope. And as I traveled a bit more, I would take maybe a staycation and I would do maybe a 3 day weekend. The more I did that, the more I left the house, the change of scenery, change of environment, I found it easier to cope. But then for me, it was also the other problem that I faced was the coming back home to an empty house. And that was not a good feeling at all. The more I stayed out, the longer and longer there were times I didn't even want to come back home. But it is all one that was building me to take on this life on my own and start rebuilding. And now that I look back, I realize I've been given a second chance at a clean slate. I have a blank canvas that I could paint my future once again. So how am I rebuilding my life? It was not overnight. It was a process. As I said, I did counseling. I've done different stints of counseling. And I had to get savvy in terms of like digging deep into finances, understanding how am I going to take care of myself, not only from a mental and physical point, how am I going to take care of myself financially going forward. So I went back to work. I was doing different, I was doing longer hours because I was like, well, there's nothing to hold me back. I can push hard, make more money. I was doing weekends, overtime, and I would volunteer. But when looking back, that was not really a rebuilding of my life. But one of the things that I found I did was self care. And I realized I needed lots of self care and just prioritizing my mental health and my physical health. So again, I got into another routine. I had a morning routine. There were some days after work, excuse me, I would go for a walk in the park and just to air my head. I would surround myself with friends. There are some friends that I no longer have because I had to set boundaries. And please let me tell you, you can say no. You can say no and gain your power back by saying no. Set boundaries. Just set boundaries. And then it was education, learning new skills. Excuse me, not only to adapt to my changing world, but adapt to my life changes. I was now going from being a wife, being a two holding household income, to now being a single widow with a one income household. So I had to gain new skills, adapt. I started reading lots more books. And then what I did, I do a bit of community engagement where I started connecting like with my church and other people who had faced maybe similar challenges, excuse me, who faced similar challenges. And in one case, you gained support. And then for me, sometimes I felt it's a bit overbearing. I was like, oh, you're hearing about the death. And I started thinking, okay, what can you twist it now? Or what can you change? Rather, think about the good memories and the good times that we had. But the community engagement was also helpful for me because it was like another outlet, something different from the ordinary, and being able to share my story. So let me just share a bit more statistics. Research indicates that by 25 months after a spouse's death, 19% of women are either remarried or involved in a new romantic relationship. Well, I'm not in that 19%, but however, that's fine because you can't rush into new relationships. It takes time for you to find out, find somebody new, and also readjust from being married to now being single, and then you're entering another relationship. It's a whole different dynamic. And I think that would be like a totally different topic on its own. So while in a new relationship wasn't my immediate focus, this statistics just highlights the resilience and capacity for renewal that many women possess. So, what lessons have I learned through this journey? So, first of all, I realized it's okay to seek help. One, learning from others and depending on others is a sign of strength. It's not weakness. Being able to admit, you know what, I am not sleeping well. Let me seek medical help. I know I wasn't sleeping well, and I went to my doctor, my GP, and they offered me sleeping tablets, and I said no. I prefer to try something that's more natural to ease me in. And I just didn't want to get dependent on any type of medication because at that point in time, I needed to be very clear in what I'm doing and clear in the sense of what are the next steps in terms of handling his estate, making certain life decisions. I just needed to have that clarity that I needed. And for me, during that time, I really more abstained from drinking any alcohol. I'm not a smoker, so that was not an option for me. And I just kind of I wanted to be as alert and coherent as possible because I knew I was experiencing memory loss and it was so difficult. I had to write everything down and at the end of the day, kind of revisit them. But I realized it was okay for me to ask for help. And that is when I went to the um, grief counseling, and then I went to another type of counseling as well. It was all a learning experience, and I enjoyed it. Also, it's so important, I've realized, is to set boundaries. Learn to say no. And there comes a point when during your grief or after your loss, there's some people they just you get a different perspective on life. I find after loss, and you realize that some of the people that were your friends, your should I say your objectives no longer or your values no longer align with each other. And I think it's bold, but it's courageous as well to to walk away from those friendships that because they no longer serve you. And you realize that before you maybe have been calling each other every day. Now, as time waned on, I realized there were some people I just didn't want to speak with them, or what they were talking about, it just didn't resonate with me because I was on a different path now And it's not that I had all the way healed. And I still say I'm still healing as of today. And it's a continuous journey. But you realize that your values no longer line up with other people. And I found some of my relationships, we just drifted away. And there was no bad blood or there wasn't any incidents that happened. But you also have to, I found I had to set boundaries and I let my no be no. And I just had to say no, no, and say it with intention and just really, really mean it. So it's also okay to embrace change. Some people have experienced loss and I've had this friend or this close friend of mine and my husband, and she sold up and she moved. There's some people you have to just not only embrace the change of being without that spouse, that having that person to um, act as a soundboard, someone for advice, life would no longer look the same. But I realize it can still be beautiful. And it took me quite a while to get to that, being able to embrace the change. And I found the more I embraced it, and the more I remembered that what he would tell me, he says, Carol, life is for living and life is for the living. The more I it validated, it's okay to move on with my life. It is okay to whether change my job, sell my house, change my address, whether I want to go traveling or what, start dating. I realized I needed to embrace this change because I am now given an opportunity to start life over again, paint a new picture, start with a brand new canvas and start again. And one of the other things, it's like to take one day at a time. And small steps lead to significant progress. Don't ever rush yourself. And I believe in just sitting in your grief. And I would say sit in it, cry as much as you want to cry, talk about the person as much as you want to talk about. Who cares if people are watching you? Because I remember there were many times I would go to functions and just maybe a song they sang, or you just reflect, oh, this is some place where we visited, and the tears would just start falling. I got to a point where I was like, I'm not sucking up any tears. Who wants to look on? I'm not doing a show. It was healing for me to let those tears out. And don't be afraid to show your emotion. There's no need for you to be strong. Cry as much as you want to cry. Feel your emotion. Be mindful of what is going on around you. And I know there's sometimes I went into certain stores and just the music for the first time, I'm like, I heard the words to the song and the tears just started flowing. And I'm like, I'm shopping and I'm like, what is going on? But I just took in the moment. I acknowledge it, and I was like, I've heard the song before, but the words meant something totally different now. So what my advice, well, I should say, and those are just a few lessons that I have learned, and I'm sure I have so many more that I can list. That is so, and go on and on. So what advice would I give to specifically women who are starting over, or you're standing at a crossroad in life, or whether you're going through a loss, and it doesn't matter whether it's a loss of a spouse, a parent, even a divorce. For those of you, first of all, acknowledge your grief. It's essential to feel and process your emotions. Sit in your grief. However long it takes for you, sit in it, seek help. talk about, remember the good times. I know there were some frustrating times as well. And there's sometimes I would just scream and shout in the house. And you were like, oh, why did you even do this? Why would you think of doing this? And there are other times that I remember the fun times, the memories, the happy times, the laughter, the little notes, the little nuggets. I always used to say, the little nuggets that he would leave me, and I started finding them around the house. And it brought peace to me. That is what it did. It brought peace to me. So I found I went from tears to um, I went from tears to smiles and fond memories. And I think then is when I found, okay, I am healing because I can think of him or I can remember him, not with a tear or broken heart, but one of fond memories and a smile. So my second bit of advice would be set new goals because you are going to change. You are going to change, and it's up to you. You can either sit in your stupor or you can pick yourself up and start again. And I would encourage you to start again. Set new goals. The way you look at life is going to change. And I could say from that is for me personally. The way I looked at life after my husband is gone, it's one totally different. I'm not interested in gathering stuff. And one of the things I realized, and I mean, everybody say it, but then the reality hits. Whatever you've acquired here on earth, you cannot take it with you. You can't take it with you. You know what? Enjoy life as you go along. Share good memories with people. Be kind. Be kind, because I realize after people have passed away, people get so mean, greedy, and nasty, and you see um, the true elements or personality of these people, and you have to not only setting the new goal, you have to do a lot of forgiving, and that's what I found. It's like there's so many times I'm like, you just gotta forgive them. You just it's like forgiveness became almost like a second nature to me after a while. I no longer got angry. I'm just like, I just have to forgive them. I have to forgive them because what else am I gonna do? That's not my pain. It's for them to seek out. So I would say focus on what you want for your future to look like. Do you want to start a new business? Do you want to relocate? Are you going to sell your house? Are you going to find a new job? Are you going to just leave the past behind and move on? Are you going to maybe start, as I said, start a new business, maybe quit your job? Some people do that. Some people just need a change of scenery, a change of new friends, but set new goals and do them in um, small bits at a time. Don't do like, oh, in 5 years, because you won't be able to manage it. Do small goals, whether set 3 months goal or monthly goals, quarterly goals, maybe six half a year goal. Do it in increments, and then remember to reward yourself as well. The third thing I would say, build a support network. I can't even begin to tell you. The ones that maybe you had before, you're going to have to walk away from a lot of them. I'm just being honest. But you've got to surround yourself with those who uplift you and understand the journey that you're on. They may not get everything, but the thing is that they're uplifting you and they understand where is it that you want to go and they are not hindering you. And for me, it was like 2 years ago. I would say my rebuilding and my ready to start life over began in 2019. And I just had it was like a light bulb moment, and I was like, this is it. I felt free as a bird, and I felt, wow, I was looking to the future. And then everybody, what happened? The pandemic happened. I didn't feel alone, but I was like, oh gosh, this has now put a bent in everything I had planned to do. Kind of like I started thinking about moving house. I started thinking about being ready to go on a date, doing more traveling. I had everything more or less planned out, but life happens. I was like, oh, this is where I want to spend Christmas. And I was like, next year, I kind of had like a list of places I wanted to go and travel to, places I wanted to visit, whether in the UK and overseas. And we got shut down after for two until 2022, and then things started to reopen up. And by 2023 is when I found my digital business, and I had to ask myself, where has this business been? And within that business, I found another community somewhere. It's a place where I have found support. Maybe not support in terms of my grief and my starting over, but a support network in terms of me starting my business and shifting my mindset. Because in 2020, in 2019, I was ready to go. But after the pandemic and everything was closed down, I was like, what am I going to do? I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And by 2023, I started my business, and I was like, this is it. And I want to help others, empower and help other women, find something that they can do and to travel. And that was one of the big things for me, was that I wanted to travel. I wanted to travel and still earn at the same time. And joining this business model and joining this business platform and this business community, it has focused so much on my personal development at a time when I needed it. Not that I don't think I was strong, but it made me even push myself out of my comfort zone. Here am I sharing my story of my loss and how it all began. I would have never done this before. But because I have been building my mindset and realizing stepping out of my comfort zone is what is going to get me to where I have to be. I can no longer shield myself. I have to step out there, especially I am now beginning to look for, I'm building a team, and I have to be upfront. I have to be an example to the team, for my team that I am building in this business. So I want you to leave you just to let you know, it's never too late to start anew. Everyone's journey is unique. Mine is unique. My journey is not yours, and your journey is yours. And while the path may be challenging, well, it has been challenging. It's also filled with opportunities for growth and rediscovery. And it's a time for you to turn inward and heal and seek that new beginning. There is seek for that new horizon and that new life that you want to paint and create for yourself. That is what it's about, growth and rediscovery. So in closing, I just want to thank you for allowing me to share my story. And if you're on a similar path, know that you are not alone. Let's continue to support and lift each other up as we just navigate like the complexities of starting over. As I said, whether you're starting over the loss of a spouse, loss of a grandma, a relative, whether you're starting over in a new country as well. You know what? You can do this. You've got it within you, but remember to take the time, heal. Just don't rush into things. Set new goals. Set new goals and just build your support network and set boundaries. Set boundaries. So that's all for me today. And join me in 2 weeks for our next Thoughtful Thursday. I'm not sure what our topic is going to be, but I'm here to support and help you to embrace new beginnings. So don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you like this content and share it with someone else who is in need of that upliftment and that encouragement to start over. So, blessings, abundance, and gratitude may it all be yours. I'll see you next time. Take care.